All right, welcome to another episode of Tea Time at PhysioX. Today we have Merill. Merill, how do I say your last name?
Cushman.
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 Merill Cushman. So, Merill and I met when I went to your WimHof fundamentals class.
Mm-hmm.
Now, personally, I've had experience with WimHof breathing and the cold plunges. And back in California, my buddy invited me over, and that was my first time experiencing it. And I just remember how good it felt afterwards. And it just got a little more and more popular. And I've been kind of looking for Wim Hof instructors around the area, and you just kind of showed up on my feed. And now we're connected. And I remember you have a very interesting story of even how you got into Wim Hof. Why don't you just share with the audience, like, first of all, what is Wim Hof? How'd you get into it? Why, and why are you still doing it?
Yeah, well, I'd like to even say first, it's been a beautiful connection hanging out with you outside of the workshop and getting to know you more. You're such an incredible person, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. How I got into Wim Hof. So I grew up locally in the Boston area, and growing up, I was just your regular kid, wanting to be outside, explore the world, adventure seeking, and me particularly though, I was fascinated with the hero's journey through going through mythology and movies like Sparta and The Gladiator and Star Wars. And like, could I be my own hero someday? Could I go on this major quest of the story? I was always very curious with that. And on top of that, I was drawn to nature, drawn to the most beautiful places on the planet, and wanting to experience life in the fullest manner of that, being in awe. And yeah, so that laid the framework of like things I was really interested in and drawn to naturally. And on top of this, I grew up in a really beautiful home, grew up in the woods, and my parents are awesome. They instilled so many good values in me, hard work ethic, etc. But it was really hard for us. It was really a dysfunctional environment to be in. Lots of, tension, lots of drama, and I just felt like 365 days a year, it was a feeling of when I went home, it was a place where it was hard to relax. So I think growing up, keep in mind I'm a kid, and when you're a kid, you're just a sponge to your environment.
When you said a kid, are you talking
Yeah.
about like when you're like all the way from when you're like 5 and up, or do you mean like more teenage years? Or?
From time I can remember, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was crazy because when I went to my parents' house, like my friend's house, and I was like, whoa, this is like a normal family,
You didn't know what like a normal family dynamic looks like until you kind of experienced it at your friend's house, right?
Yeah, and maybe like I did have a normal dynamic, but I'm just talking about in terms of just like everyone's happy, everything's all good, and yeah, like for instance, imagine you're playing Xbox with your friends, and you're in a party, so you got the mic on and everyone's talking. The moment I heard my dad start to walk upstairs, I immediately muted myself, or I had to grab my mic because I knew it was just about to erupt into all this chaos. So point is growing up, I never formed a good relationship with stress or my emotions. It's really easy, and I think it's a natural mechanism in our psychology and biology to avoid stress. It's a survival tactic. So whenever that would happen, I would close myself off. I'd try to distract myself or go outside. So when I started growing up, now going into high school, and I had these bigger responsibilities being the captain of these teams, or I felt like I wanted to go and practice or play professionally in soccer and pursue that in college. When I would be in these high intense situations, I went into complete fight or flight. I couldn't focus. I would even have panic attacks at times. So and then having experiences where in high school, I was walking down the hallway and I'd have like my crush girl tell me, Merill, do you ever smile? And thinking like, am I really happy and so forth. So when I reached a point where I was looking to go into university, into uni, as they say in Australia. And when I went to go to uni, I went to go in Tampa, which was a different area of the world. And Florida allowed me to get outside of my known environment in Boston, away from my family, and allowed me to get in touch with myself. At that which point, I was able to dive into meditation. So I was always into the hero's journey, and I would hear people like Bruce Lee or Kobe Bryant, they're like, meditation's so good for you. And I'm like, I want to be like my own hero, so let me try that. And I remember committing to it for the first 3 months, which at this point was about when I was 20 years old. And I felt so calm. I felt so present. It was so unfamiliar though. You know, if I've been practicing feeling stressed and not confident and insecure, you know, I was like, this is new to me, but I love it. And so around that time, I started getting some momentum, and I ended up getting a girlfriend. I ended up having the best friends I could ask for, and just felt really happy. And then that's when COVID hit. So COVID was a gift, but also a curse for many people around the world. It asked us to completely just forget everything we know and just go inside. Everyone I felt like had to deal with themselves on some level. And when that happened, I was still in that Zen kind of dojo mindset in Tampa. But after a month, in April of 2020, I decided I had to go back home to Massachusetts. And I was determined to not allow my environment, meaning the chaos at home, to really get to me. I felt like I reached a point where I could overcome it. Soon I learned, after the months went by, May, June, July, old habits and habitual thinking behaviors started coming up.
Right, so all the stuff you were working on just starting to kind of creep back in once
Yes.
you went back into Boston. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. And it was really good feedback for myself, because when I look back at now, there's a difference between being the philosopher, knowing things intellectually, and, you know, being that guy at work like, yo, you should forgive her, you know, but to live it is totally different. And I'm still doing my best to truly understand what that means to embody these principles. But anyways, so yeah, I got to a point where all these old habits started coming up. And then one thing out of another, my girlfriend broke up with me. I had this financial stressor with still paying my apartment back in Tampa, was getting to me. And that created a lot of unworthiness. And then, yeah, all the stress just piled up with my parents again, and boom, like the deepest amount of mental health I've ever been in. You know, not feeling the motivation to wake up, sleeping in, always overthinking, overanalyzing. I was even looking at the parts of myself that I used to like and judging myself for it. Like, you think you're this hero, this life coach you want to be at the time. Who do you think you are? All these things that came up. And it was during those dark days where I really I really connected to people that were really depressed and anxious. Like, if you're going through something right now, just know that there's people around you, there's resources around you that you can find that can really take you to the next level. And it takes a level of courage and inspiration to do that. And mine was in the form of WimHof. So this is where WimHof comes in. So it was a summer night, about 5 months into this like hellhole, it felt like. And I went to go smoke a joint down the Cape Cod, which is like the arm of Massachusetts where all the beaches are. And I used this to just escape my reality. So I went to joint, looked up at the stars. I was like, here we go again. Let's just go to my room. And the YouTube algorithm brought me to this man named Wim Hof. For those who don't know, he's called the Iceman. He set all these records through his incredible feats of athleticism and doing things that no man that we know of has been able to do. Longest ice bath, half marathon in the desert, marathon above the polar circle with no shoes, you know, all these insane things. And through this though, he had a mission to really help the world through his method, which is based on 3 things: the breath, cold exposure, gradual cold exposure, and mindset. And these 3 pillars together make the Wim Hof method, which have generated all these incredible studies and research on the power of this, which brings us to about 2010, 2020, where Wim Hof was able to produce all these significant results in his breathing technique, which has shown to decrease the inflammatory response of the body and increase the immune system, mental health, lowers anxiety, increases focus. With the cold, strengthening the immune system, being a stress that allows us to be more resilient, X, Y, and Z. So when I found this guy, all I knew was this guy is doing incredible things and he's got so much life within him. You know, you see people in life and their presence alone lights you up. They're almost like walking examples of joy. I'm like, yo, like, what do you got? I want that. And I found out that through this method, one of the things it helps with is depression. So I was like, what do I have to do? I downloaded the WimHof app, did the breathing, and first time in months, I felt calm. I actually looked forward to going to the beach the next day. And it really put me back. I was like, this only took me 15 minutes. And I'm not even on to doing the cold showers yet, which can help you in so many ways. So that led me down this lens of like, health is in my hands, and eventually I became just addicted to it. Like every morning I would commit to doing the breathing, doing the cold, and it gave me the discipline and the energy to try things I never always wanted to. I even doubled down on my meditation practice, and it became this obsession of how much can I heal myself. And it got to a point where I ended up getting a new job, moved back up here, doubled my income. I met friends that I'll be friends for life now. I got into the best shape of my life, and I'm still healing. Like, I feel like every day I'm feeling even more joy for life. And yeah, the journey never ends. And yeah, now I'm at this point where, you know, 7 months ago, I got certified as an instructor so I could share this. And it's been just exceptional showing people through the WimHof method, which is just one lens. There's so many different practices. But through his lens, how we know non-speculatory with empirical data, this can help you if you decide to dive into it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm just a message for the change, and it's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, love it, man. So you love it so much, you went ahead and you got the certification to be a Wim Hof instructor, right? So tell me a little bit about that process. Like, what's it take to become like a Wim Hof instructor?
Wow, it's a good question. I never asked that before.
Yeah.
Well, number one is just understanding. You go through the academy, the Wim Hof Academy, which is a video course, and it's really taking this practice of going into the cold, doing the breathing, using the mindset to be disciplined in not only your practice but everyday life, and turning that into how can I teach this? So for me, it was how can I put my position in now I can use my knowledge and empower other people with it. So I started learning about different ways people retain information, how to engage people in a lesson or workshop, and from there it was all about also learning the science. The thing about the Wim Hof method that maybe you can, let's take yoga for instance. Yoga, like, I'm not a teacher, but what was interesting about me about Wim Hof is like we have all this science on it that you have to know. Where like yoga, their thing is like you got to know all the stances and know the positions. For us, it was like there's no other thing out there right now that has all this data on it. So making sure I got a grip on the studies, how to read a study, and how to say that in a way that people can understand it, because science can get people to like not even focus. So like that's way over my head. So how can I make that in a simple manner? And the journey to this was also one that was actually very spiritual. So through going through the academy, it was, instead of you doing it in like a 3-month span, which some people got certified within 3 months, I was one of the ones that from November to May, I was in this Wim Hof cave. And I was really retaining the information. I was taking longer ice baths than I've ever had before. I was pushing myself physically, mentally in life. I was doing the Wim Hof breathing on a different lens where I was using it for visualization. So I was trying to see like, what else can I do with this? It's not just about breathing in, letting go, and feeling better. Like, how can I use this as alchemy in my life? And it led me to have all these new business ideas and think greater for myself. And I think it's with anything in life that you want to go for, it's who we're becoming. And the journey to becoming a Wim Hof instructor required me to be more professional, more disciplined, open my heart more. My heart was so closed for so long, and for me to want to express myself fully, like it required me to like feel love and joy more, which sounds corny, but it's so true. And
Well, I
yeah,
think as part of being a Wim Hof instructor, like you can't just come on to a place and just spit off what you're gonna spit off, right? There is a certain energy that you gotta have because the people in front of you who you're guiding this practice with, you guys sort of share this energy together in this one place, in this one room.
very true.
And I remember when I was practicing Wim Hof that one time, there was a bunch of people inside a room, and we're all lying down, and we're all doing we're doing it for a while, and at some point I remember distinctly that all of our breath was synced up together. And I couldn't describe the feeling, but it seems like the way I was breathing was almost automatic. Like I didn't have to think about it because it was just within. Like, you know how birds kind of fly together and it's effortless for them?
Yep.
It seems that way, but for human beings, if you could understand that.
Yep.
Now, and when we get into the pause breath, so in Wim Hof, they have you breathe, and then at some point you might stop breathing and just hold that. Normally what you would do is, oh my God, I gotta breathe. But we were all able to do it for minutes. You just didn't hear anything, you're just silent. Everyone was just a little bit of nice background music, but everyone was just silent. And yeah, that was just a magical experience. And I think having the right instructor there was important. Just being able to not just say, breathe in, breathe out,
Right.
breathe in, breathe out. But there is more to it than just spoken words.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like going through that certification process, you have found kind of like your inner self a little bit more.
Definitely.
That you're able to express that in a way that other people can resonate with. And of course, there's a skill set of being able to explain things in simple terms, which is important. I mean, this is what we do as well.
Right.
We have a lot of science behind how the body works, but we need to explain it to you in a way that you just understand immediately, and it's almost common sense at this point.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, love that journey. Now, you also traveled a bunch too.
I did.
So, were you gone for like 6 weeks or something? Where were you?
Well, if you look at like last year alone, I used to work for a travel company, and through one of their tours, I was able to take a World War II tour of Europe, which brought me through 5 different countries: England, France, Belgium, Austria.
Yeah. Was this after you done the Wim Hof
Yes.
certification?
So this was in June, and 2 weeks prior to that, I went to Spain for my Wim Hof certification, and I also went to Portugal, and I met with my mentor Danny Silva, who was one of the first Wim Hof instructors. He also was mentoring me at this time. And then in March of this year as well, I went to Thailand. And where I went to Thailand, I went to this island called Koh Samui, and I went to this mindset retreat with Tim Han, who is a world-renowned life coach and speaker. Think like Tony Robbins. Like if Tony Robbins is like Kobe Bryant, I would say Tim Han is like an all-star. Like he's right there. He's exceptional. And man, traveling is amazing, man. And if you can travel with the right intention, it just blossoms into this incredible things. I also went to Germany and Austria, Slovenia recently with my friend. That was for 2 weeks.
So after going through the Wim Hof experience, did that change the way that you experience your travel?
Definitely. Because now when I travel, it's how can I surround myself with like-minded people? People that, for me, I value health, I value experiences. So when I went to the Wim Hof Academy, I met 31 people from 31 different countries that all valued living good, exercising, eating right. And we are having these engaging conversations where my lifestyle didn't steer away from, despite where I was traveling. Because usually when you think of travel, you think of like staying in hotels and drinking and eating all this good food, but like your habits that make you great kind of dwindled down. So I learned to travel in a way that still valued my potential and what I was here to do, but also having fun. And meeting different people with different ways of living and cultures that can introduce you to a different way of life, of course.
I think finding something powerful like Wim Hof and just understanding yourself a bit better, I think you naturally become more curious about other humans in general.
Yeah,
Because you start to, if you understand yourself as this human being who have this whole, distinctive life and all the decisions you make and all the stuff, it's just so interesting. And you look at someone else like, man, they have a similar type of experience, but completely different. And I feel like it just allows you to be able to connect with someone just so much more.
it does.
Yeah.
I think ultimately when we wash away we pull the sticks and the weeds out of our river that don't allow us to be ourselves fully. The WimHof method is like a nice cleanse every day for you to just get out all of your BS so you can be yourself. I think when you feel good and you feel confident that the WimHof method can promote, yeah, you're gonna talk to people like that and maybe even have that tourist outlook on your everyday life. How can I be a tourist in that exploratory philosophy when I'm here in Boston?
Right. Like, how do you bring that same like wonder and curiosity when you're traveling to a new place? How can you bring a little bit of that back into your regular old life?
Totally.
Even for things that you experience thousands of times a day, it's like, can I look at this from a different angle that
Absolutely.
allows me to kind of enjoy it a little bit more?
And I think something that Wim, just being himself, preaches is play. How can we play in our life to bring out more joy? We are adults and we have all these responsibilities, but life is a beautiful dance. Life is a beautiful gift. And if you can find ways to play in your day, which for me is like, man, I love listening to music when I make my coffee, when I'm in the shower. If I'm driving, sure, I'll listen to a podcast or something, but man, there's something to do with letting your spirit out and finding ways in that where you can allow that to happen, because that allows the brain to think in more creative ways. When you're having fun, you're joyous, you're not in low beta brainwaves, which is like, you're very narrow focused. When we're in a state where we're relaxed, like you were saying how this place allows us to relax and heal. When we're in that manner, you'll have more business ideas. You'll feel that inclination to call that person that maybe then leads to another opportunity. And it's within us every day. I was listening to this woman who, I forget what she healed herself from, but the core of her practice was using gratitude to boost her immune system. And she had vertigo, which is like, and she had like double vision. And she was like, well, if I downregulated myself potentially by my thoughts alone through fight or flight, can I upregulate my genes, my proteins through the same mindset, but through living in joy and happiness? So she made an experiment to feel more gratitude. And she was like, wow, this pillow is so soft. I'm so grateful. Wow, I see 2 trees instead of 1. And fair enough, she went to her doctors the next day, or 3 months later, and it showed in the blood samples that she had improved her immune system. She wasn't having bleeding from a certain area that she struggled with for years. And he was like, what are you doing? Keep it up. So yeah, I think I say that because the Wim Hof method and all these things are really trying to get us back to our own inner nature, which is to be happy, to be healthy, and to be strong.
No, I love all of that. And I mean, the words we tell ourselves, the conversations we have with ourselves definitely plays a big role in how we feel physically, mentally. Like, we deal with injuries here all the time. And when someone walks in the door and they say, man, my back's always going to hurt, it's just because I'm old and just something I have to deal with. Well, that type of language already closed the door for the possibility that you can heal. Now, am I saying every single disease can be healed because of the mind? No, I'm not saying that. The world's
Totally.
not fair. There's going to be people who are just going to have a place in the circumstances that's just unfair, you know? But there's a lot out there that can be done, like the example that you just talked about right there.
Right.
And we can think of probably a whole lot more. And just when I met you, I feel like having known like the Wim Hof method and having met you, it just seemed like you were just more present. It feels like you were just kind of operating at a higher vibration, right? And I think that's kind of the reason why I was attracted to you and brought you over here to talk about this.
Cool.
Now, something I know a lot of people need right now is to be more present, right? But also take away stress. Or at least maybe not take away stress, but have strategies that they can deal with stress much better. And I know the Wim Hof method can be helpful for that. So why don't you tell me a little bit about just kind of that segment of it, how it relates to stress and stress management?
Absolutely. So, well, as my friend Jordan told me one time, you get better at what you practice. So first of all, if you get really good at practicing being stressed out and you feed those same neurological connections, you're gonna get really good at being stressed out. But if you make that intention in daily practice to, no, you know what? I'm gonna do things that allow me to feel calm, that practices that get me into that framework, that eventually the mind and body get to a place where it's who you are. And I think what's good about the Wim Hof method is the breathing, we know for sure, when you do the breathing, it activates this part of the brain called the parietal gray area. And this has to do with self-reflection, focus, and well-being. So if you were to do this, let's say 5 days a week, if you were to do this 5 days a week for 3 months, do you think that you'd probably feel more focused or happy and present, right? The body would have to, right, if you did that. Now, with the cold, I used to take Adderall sometimes for my focus and my anxiety, which naturally actually got me calm because I guess it allowed my interpretation of it. When I would take it, everything got super focused and I was actually be present. But what if there was something naturally within ourselves that when activated could allow those same hormones and neurotransmitters to be activated? Well, that's where the cold comes in. So couple the breathing with what we just said about that, with the mental health benefits. Couple that with going to the cold, which from a mental health standpoint, activates noradrenaline and epinephrine, which are the same neurotransmitters and hormones that Adderall uses. We get that from going in the cold. Now, do that 5 days a week. You're doing some breathing, cold showers, all of which could take maybe 20 minutes for your day, right, in the morning. Do that for 3 months straight. Your body and your mind will change. And it's whether or not you want to keep believing in the past or you fall in love with the future. And yes.
So it sounds like the Wim Hof method is almost like you're forcing yourself physically to change mentally. Because when we're doing a Wim Hof method, I'm just gonna kind of let people know like what it entails. I don't know the exact seconds or whatever it is, but it's kind of like this. You go. Am I?
Yep.
I got that right. So it's, in a way, the way that you breathe is that you have no choice but to be conscious of it.
Yeah,
it's
that
not,
too.
Because it's not like, because there's a rhythm that you need to keep up with.
Yep.
And then what I love the most is that time when you let go and you just stop.
Right.
And you get that silent, you get that just kind of pause, that peace.
Yep.
It's like it is the in-between breath, right? And that is, for me, is my favorite part.
Right on.
It's just so calm, just so like, man, I don't know. Something about not breathing feels great.
Absolutely. And going back to the main question, which you reminded me of, which like, how do you stay present? Well, if you're putting your body and your mind, because they're connected, every day exposing it to things that are going to make it feel good, that will come into your daily life. And specifically with that breathing too, that breathing is going from a slight fight or flight sympathetic drive with the, right? You're kind of boosting up some adrenaline there to then not breathing at all, which is a parasympathetic. So you're teaching your body to go from up to down. And you're teaching your body to upregulate and then to downregulate, which how many times in our life are we exposed to environmental factors or stress that upregulate us, and then we stay upregulated for the whole day? Upregulated meaning stressed out, which it's important for us to be able to handle stress, but it's not healthy for us to stay in that stress. And that's why the Wim Hof is great, because it can get you back into feeling good and present because you've been practicing it every morning or night. So you're gonna get better at it.
So it's kind of like you have situations in which it will spike your adrenaline. Like, oh my God, someone had a bad interaction with someone, or even be in traffic or whatever it is, and it spikes. But for so many of us, when it spikes, it just stays like that for hours, right?
Yes.
So it sounds like what you're trying to say is when you do the Wim Hof method, where you're constantly going into a high state and then come back to a low state, and high state and go back to a low state, your nervous system kind of remembers that, and it's like, oh, I'm in a high state. But guess what? I remember I used to do this thing where I come all the way back down in a relatively short amount of time, so it would automatically kind of take that nice little dive for you when you come into situations when you're elevated.
Absolutely.
I love it because the nervous system is so smart. I mean,
It's very smart.
It's one of the things. It's one of the biggest things we consider when it comes to rehab here. It's like if we can feed the body what it needs, it has a way to heal itself. It has a way to come back down to a normal state of being. And Wim Hof seems like just a nice tool to feed the body in order for it to work optimally.
Absolutely. Yeah. And couple that with the cold, right? The cold is, if you go in for 2 to 3 minutes, which I recommend, if you're just starting, I recommend starting at 15 seconds every week, working up by 15 seconds more. So 15, 30, 40. Point is going into the cold for 2 minutes, if you just look at resilience alone, your body is responding to the stress in a healthy way, in a safe amount of time, just going for 2 minutes. Because if you're going for 10 minutes plus, you're now talking, you could get hyperthermic. But in a safe amount, we can train our body to go into it, be able to stay calm in that, and then we get out and we're like, oh, we're okay. Oh, wow, that was not bad as I thought. Mm-hmm. So what's gonna happen when, in my case, you almost get into a car accident and your body is responding as it should? I'm focused, I'm kind of up, and then, oh, I find myself naturally be able to relax after 10 seconds without having to really think about it. Yeah. I've been able to train my nervous system, and still am, to be, chill.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what attracted myself back into Wim Hof, because I've gone through a period of stressful times, and I needed a way to kind of downregulate myself. And I remember having this experience and how helpful it was. So I did a couple more cold plunges with you, both times actually. And I remember going in there, and initially before going in, you're like, shit, I want to do this right now. Like, it's gonna suck. You get all these thoughts, just coming in here. And then there's something about just going right in, and not like tippy-toe your way in, but I'm just like, just go right in there. The initial shock comes in, and your body's trying to react, but I'm going, no, I'm not gonna let it win. I'm just gonna just take my slow breath there, inhale, exhale. And honestly, after like a minute, it came kind of easy. Like, I could have stayed in there for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, but there was a point, I think I did like a lot longer one time, and like I started to quiver, and I was like, man, maybe it's a good time to kind of get out, because you still got to listen to your body, because your mind can kind of mess you up sometimes. You're like overdoing the fortitude that your body's physically able to sustain.
Absolutely.
But I think it's wonderful.
Yep.
That cold plunge is great, and I think honestly it's way better after you do the breathing. Like, I've done it both ways. I went in there, no breathing. I went in there after the breathing. I think it's a totally different experience. I think there's something about the breathing that comes beforehand that just allows you to go in there much more calmly.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I think with the breath, as you talked about, it gets you, I mean, you felt it. You feel super calm and chill after, but Also, we've shown in some studies that the Wim Hof method may be able to produce endocannabinoids and pain relievers from the breathing method. So imagine going into the cold after you do some breathing, your ability to handle pain and stress is going to be probably a lot higher. So that's why going into the cold would be a lot easier. So yeah, it makes sense why you felt like you're able to. It was going to be easier for you.
Yeah, I mean, it makes more sense now. Something I want to kind of touch on is there was a study with Wim in which they injected was it a bacteria or something?
Yep.
That naturally your body would fight back against, and make you feel nauseous, all these ill effects. And what they found was after doing the Wim Hof method, I don't know the exact numbers of weeks that they've done it for, but they had actually saw that the people who practiced Wim Hof method did not react nearly the same way. It's almost they did not react to that, which that was published in the scientific journals, and I thought, wow, there is some powerful thing having to do with this method.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the study was, so in 2012, the Radboud Institute in the Netherlands was saying, hey, Wim, we've injected over 100 other participants with this endotoxin dead bacteria. It's like an E. coli virus, and all of them responded the same, which is nausea, vomiting, not feeling good, which is normal. The immune system is going to respond, and it's gonna suck, but you're gonna heal after a while. But Wim was like, no, you know what? I think that with my breathing technique, because I don't get sick, I feel like I can fight this off. And they're like, all right, let's do this. So Wim was injected into it. He was doing his breathing, and for the first 10 minutes, he reported having a small headache. But after that, all symptoms receded, and he felt perfectly normal. And what was cool though is they took the blood samples, and they found that he was producing more white blood cells and natural killer cells through the breathing, through the increase in cortisol, which in short amounts is an anti-inflammatory agent, more or less. So through his breathing, through what he said and through the blood, was able to fight off the disease, this is incredible. Like, we were able to get tapped into a part of our nervous system that was thought to be untouchable. And then, as you mentioned, he ended up training men in the method, and after 10 days, they came back, did the same test. Same thing happened, first 10 minutes or so, slight headache, and then boom, back to normal. This is a E. coli virus that is said to be extremely horrible, nauseating, vomiting, and these guys are back at it like it's nothing. And this has to form the discussion of, with our breath, what are we capable of? You mentioned the body's ability to heal. I was talking to an Oxygen Advantage coach yesterday about nasal breathing, and which I'm still learning more about. Because the idea is, how can we take this tool, the Wim Hof method, and bring it into our daily life even more, which one of the pillars is breath. And it's so interesting to find out the power of our breath beyond just doing a practice. And what if we, on an everyday basis, were able to breathe more optimally, and what could that present to our lives? So yeah, it's really incredible, and that's just one study that Wim has done that it really stands out to me, of course.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a magnificent study, and it just kind of changes everything. Because before, anecdotes and all that, but now they put it to the test, and he's able to repeat this for other people.
Right.
I think that's huge for the community, and I think that's what really brought Wim Hof much closer to the forefront of what we're seeing now. Another story that really caught my attention, I was at your workshop, and there was a clip that you showed. I forgot the guy's name, older gentleman, but
Doug.
He was Doug. And you know Doug personally.
I know Doug.
Yeah, you met that person.
Doug's the man.
And he was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for those who know, it's autoimmune. Yep, and it just kind of paralyzes you. you don't move around
Yeah.
with Guillain-Barré. And he found a Wim Hof method, and through that, he was able to make a recovery. Was that the story?
Yeah, yeah, he was able to reverse his symptoms, and from going completely couch-ridden, bedridden, within 5 months, he was back to normal.
Now, I don't know details. Was he also taking some drugs to help with that at the same time?
I can't recall.
In conjunction?
But he was definitely in the hospital. I remember he was trying to do as best he can to try to change something, but nothing was changing.
Right.
And that's when his son presented the Wim Hof method to him.
Right, because I know that's not like something you take a pill and you're gonna get better. It's, you know, it's a loaded process to that. And if something like breathing for the Wim Hof method can help,
In
my God,
cold exposure,
in cold exposure with something as violent as Guillain-Barré,
yeah.
I can't imagine the benefits that like a normal person who's just dealing with some stress,
How
much impact that can have.
Can you take me and the listeners through like that condition if you know about it? Like what's actually happening to the body in that?
So I remember I knew a lot more
Yeah.
because it's a condition that we have to study in order to pass the board exam.
Okay.
But I'll be honest, I have not come into contact with anyone with Guillain-Barré, so I can't really tell you much information.
Oh.
It just kind of escaped me.
Yeah, from
all
what I
these
remember,
years.
actually, I think so. What happens? It's a chronic inflammatory disease. So chronic inflammation is when the immune system doesn't know the difference between a healthy pathogen or invading pathogen in our body. So it starts to fight itself, and this
Right.
is what creates like chronic inflammation, which is bad. And I think his condition was it was something with like the spine, the
Yeah, well, the listeners can also
True,
kind
true.
of research that out.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah,
But point
exactly.
is, he was able to reverse his symptoms, and you see in the video of Doug, now he's in his, I think his early 70s now. He bench presses more than he's ever done in his life. He wakes up at 4:35, works out with his buddy, full of energy. And dude, this guy's presence and life force and energy, whatever you want to call it, it's second to none. He's such a beautiful man. And yeah, Wim Hof, bro.
Yeah.
Serious stuff.
Right. So now you're a Wim Hof instructor. So like, what's next? Like, what are you planning to do?
Damn. Well, I'm looking to travel the world. I want to inspire people and get better at storytelling and create a framework where people, if they meet me in life or they see something I make on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, they're left feeling more possibility. And my intention is to continue to get better as a businessman. And ultimately, I'd like to use this practice Wim Hof method to allow myself to give the energy to make advancements in my athletics, my, if you want to call it, smarter pillar, to get more productive, learn languages. I want to use this energy to keep enhancing my life. I mean, I'm 24, I'm still young, and I'm seeing so many people that are older than me, and they've laid this beautiful foundation of success for me that I'm learning and stepping into as best I can. So just getting better and better as a person, and yeah, so that's my goal going forward now.
Yeah. Wow. You're 24, and I think you have through the Wim Hof method and just going through the training. I think your maturity level and your understanding of life and your outlook on life is just very different. Are your peers like that?
I have older parents, so I don't really know what it is.
Oh, your peers, like your friends.
Oh, my
are
peers.
They kind of?
I do have older friends, but I think what it is just self-reflection. I think when you self-reflect on yourself, you make sense of yourself, I think you naturally will mature because you're taking ownership of who you are. You're thinking, it's almost like a philosopher thinking about their life, and you question things. Like the art of questioning is amazing practice, which I think I've just always been really curious, and it's led me to put my attention and focus into areas that I think would better myself. So yeah, I think that's why I've been able to grow at a fast rate and still so much to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we started the podcast, I know you were doing some video stuff, you were doing some social media stuff, and you're teaching some workshops as well. Like,
Yeah.
so what's going on in your life right now?
Man, I'm just like full of energy right now. I'm creating so many beautiful things. Besides workshops, if you're in the Boston area, which are like a 4-hour fundamentals immersion into the Wim Hof method, I'm also working on, almost done with a really cool program for people individually, where we take the Wim Hof method and other things beyond the method that I've learned in my life that can enhance you in your life professionally, relationships, business, athletics. Everything that I've learned is being poured out into this. And what I'm also excited to do is I'm going to start to have people to live with me. So I think what's really cool about retreats is retreats offer this place where you get to like learn things in real time in physical reality. But imagine being able to live with someone that eats good food, moves their body, does things that enhance their life, and you can mastermind, you can work on their business together. So I'm currently working on a program that allows that too, where imagine staying with me and I'm making you the best coffee in the world, or tea if you like that, eating good food, we go to the gym together, we work on your business, and you feel better. So I'm passionate about that. And then, yeah, with videography and storytelling, that's something that I'm looking to get better at in terms of my social media and with my video creation on YouTube. So when I'm going on my van, when I'm in my van in the future this summer, I can create a captivating story that inspires you guys to live life to the fullest. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I'm working on now, and yeah, it's been really fun.
Huh? Love it, man. Bright future ahead. You're so young. You got plenty of time, and I love that you're thinking about what's next in the next. I don't know how far you're thinking. It looks like it's at least 5 years down the road that you're thinking, because this is not a short-term type plan to be able to accomplish all these things, to have a retreat, things like that. I mean, I would check out your retreat, man.
Yeah, it's almost like basically, even beyond a retreat, it's like a one-on-one experience with just me. Like imagine living with me. Like that's really what it is, along with like, yeah, man, it's so cool.
I remember my buddy lived with me one time when I was in grad school. One roommate left, and he lived with me for 3 months. So he just ate what I ate, went to the gym when I went to the gym, woke up when I woke up. He lost like 30 pounds.
There you go. See how valuable it is?
So the idea is there, man.
Yeah.
It's definitely like a viable idea. If someone, because he had no choice. It's like, we're eating chicken breast, we're eating salmon, some veggies, some rice.
Right.
What's for lunch? A sandwich?
Right.
Like, and he goes into my cabinet and it's like, hey, I'm trying to look for some snacks. And I'm like, there's no snacks.
100%. I know, right?
It's just the way it is. What we're doing now, we're going to be cleaning.
Right? Yeah, take care of your environment.
Yeah. Cool, man. So if people want to connect with you, they want to find you, where can they find you?
So if you look up Cushman Expedition on Instagram or YouTube, that's where some of my like content is and videos, super fun. Working on a website currently, but if you just look up Cushman Expedition, you'll find me. You can also look up my name, Merill Cushman, Merrill, Cushman with a C, and I'll be there too. And yeah, maybe you'll attract me. Maybe you'll be walking around and you'll see me. Feel free to say hi, give me a hug, and it'll tell me that I'm doing good things. So yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. And this guy's exactly who he is online and offline. It's just consistent the whole time. Hey man, love your energy. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, brother.
Yep.
And that's it.